The more you plan every detail, the more your life slips through your fingers. What if surrender, not control, is the real power? We were told success comes from grinding harder. But what if letting go gets you further than pushing ever will? In a world obsessed with controlling outcomes, the ones who trust the process are the ones who win. Why? Because control is a myth. Alignment is real. Welcome to StoicCraft, where ancient wisdom meets modern chaos. Here, we don't just talk philosophy, we live it. Life has a way of humbling even the most prepared among us. The harder we try to control every variable, the outcomes, the timing, how others respond, the more life seems to resist. We craft detailed plans, map out our goals, micromanage our futures, all in the name of success. But what if the very act of gripping too tightly is what's holding us back? What if the secret isn't in trying harder, but in letting go? Not passivity, but purposeful release. This isn't about giving up. It's about recognizing where your real power begins and where it ends. It's about knowing the difference between determination and desperation. The ancient Stoics understood this truth long before our age. Of hustle culture and productivity obsession, Marcus Aurelius wrote of surrender, not in weakness, but in wisdom. He spoke of aligning with reality, not fighting it. He knew that true peace comes not from conquering the external world, but from mastering the internal one. And that's exactly what we'll explore here, the mindset shift that can radically alter how you approach success, relationships, and even your personal sense of peace. Because if you're constantly feeling exhausted, stretched thin, and like no matter how much you do, things still don't fall into place, there's a reason. You might be clinging to things that were never yours to control in the first place. This isn't another motivational pep talk. This is about building real confidence, the kind that doesn't vanish when plans fall through or people disappoint you. It's about learning how to move through life with calm and certainty, not anxiety and tension. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll walk away not just with a new insight, but with a completely different way of approaching what you want most. We obsess over outcomes. We wait for the call, the message, the moment we think will validate all our effort. We push, we chase, we stress, believing that if we just apply enough pressure, the universe will give in. But more often than not, that pressure backfires. The more tightly we cling to specific results, the more anxious we become. We stop enjoying the process. We stop noticing our own growth. Our happiness becomes a hostage, trapped by something we can't even control. The Stoics saw this trap centuries ago. Epictetus reminded us that suffering isn't rooted in events themselves, but in our attachment to how we think those events should unfold. Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to, he said. Rather, wish that what happens as it should, and your life will flow. It's not apathy, it's alignment. So instead of obsessing over outcomes, focus on the input, your actions, your discipline, your mindset. These are within your control. Everything else, that's noise. Imagine an artist standing before a canvas. If they obsess over each stroke, worrying how others will judge the final product, they paralyze their creativity. But if they surrender to the process, fully immerse in the act of painting, something beautiful emerges. Not because they forced it, but because they trusted it. And ironically, that's when their greatest work is born. The same truth applies to life, to work, to love. The moment we stop demanding perfection, the moment we stop gripping so tightly to outcomes, we begin to actually live, to enjoy, to breathe. Think about relationships. You've probably seen it. Someone trying too hard to impress, clinging to the need for approval, desperate for affection. That energy repels. But someone who is grounded, calm, and confident, they draw people in effortlessly, not because they're indifferent, but because they trust. They understand what's meant to connect will, without force, without fear. And what about success? We've all been sold a timeline. Graduate by this age, earn this much, marry by then, hit that milestone. And if life doesn't go according to the script, panic sets in, doubt creeps in. But success was never meant to be a checklist. It's a path, winding, unpredictable, deeply personal. And detachment from rigid expectations isn't giving up on ambition. It's the beginning of wisdom. Life rarely unfolds according to plan. It's full of sharp turns, delays, and hidden opportunities we never saw coming. The irony is when we fixate too hard on a single outcome, that promotion, that ideal partner, that one version of success, we often become blind to better paths unfolding around us. It's like staring at a locked door while another one quietly swings open behind us. So take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what am I holding on to too tightly? What goal, dream, or outcome am I gripping with so much pressure that it's actually causing me stress rather than fulfillment? Now imagine loosening that grip, not out of defeat, but out of trust. Trust that even if it doesn't work out exactly as you planned, you'll still be okay. That's what true detachment means. It doesn't mean not caring. It means no longer needing things to go your way in order to feel at peace. Now, how does this look in practice, in real life? Not just theory? First, remind yourself every day, outcomes are not within your control. You cannot script life. You can only control your actions, your effort, and your attitude. Second, reframe your internal language. Instead of saying, I need this to happen, try, I trust that whatever happens will lead to growth. That shift, while subtle, rewires how you experience uncertainty. And finally, perhaps most powerfully, root yourself in the present moment. The more grounded you are in the now, the less control the future has over your mind. Because here's the truth. Life will test you. Some days everything will click, and you'll feel unstoppable. Other days nothing will go right. The difference between those who crumble and those who rise isn't luck. It's mindset. Your mind can either be your greatest asset or your heaviest burden, and if you don't learn to master it, it will master you. We can't control global markets, unpredictable people, or random accidents, but we can control how we respond. And that's where real power lives, in the response, not the reaction. When you move from impulsive reaction to deliberate response, you reclaim control over your own narrative. William James, one of the pioneers of modern psychology, once said, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." The Stoics knew this long before psychology gave it a name. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. You don't have to believe everything your mind whispers during a stressful moment. You can step back. You can reframe. Let's say you're going through a rough patch at work. Maybe you've made a string of mistakes. Your boss is watching too closely. You feel like you're failing. The easy route, the common one, is to fall into self-doubt. I'm just not good enough. Maybe I'm in the wrong place. That's the trap of a fixed mindset, believing your struggles define your limits. But what if you flipped the script? What if you told yourself, this is part of learning. Each misstep is sharpening my skill. The pressure is showing me where I can grow. That's a growth mindset. It transforms stress into strength, failure into feedback. The Stoics believed every difficulty was a training ground for character, patience, resilience, wisdom. Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. And he was right. Every challenge is a weight you can lift. And like physical strength, mental strength grows only through resistance. No resistance, no growth. But let's not romanticize it. Mastering your mindset is not a switch you flip. It's a muscle you train daily. One powerful way to begin is by paying close attention to your self-talk. Are you feeding yourself fear, anxiety, and doubt? Or are you consciously choosing to see growth, to stay calm, and to turn obstacles into opportunities? You don't need perfect circumstances to be powerful. You need clarity. You need presence. And above all, you need the discipline to choose the stronger thought, not once, but again and again, until it becomes who you are. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant, that's what will eventually grow. If you constantly plant seeds of fear, stress, and doubt, don't be surprised when those are the thoughts that overtake you. But if you intentionally plant resilience, clarity, and strength, those qualities will take root and grow stronger with time. Another essential tool to strengthen your mindset is presence. So much of our daily stress comes not from what's happening right now, but from reliving yesterday or obsessing about what tomorrow might bring. The past can't be changed. The future hasn't happened yet. But right now, this moment is where your real power lives. The next time you feel anxiety building, stop and ask yourself, what small step can I take right now to move forward? That simple question can break the cycle of worry and return you to what really matters. Now, let's talk about patience. Patience is one of the hardest virtues to develop, especially when you're in the thick of building something meaningful. You've invested time, poured in energy, done everything by the book, and still, nothing seems to be happening. It's frustrating. And in today's culture of fast results and instant gratification, it's easy to feel like something's wrong with you if success doesn't show up overnight. But the truth, life doesn't operate on your timeline. Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly. Real success, deep inner peace, meaningful relationships, none of these things happen in a rush." Just like you can't force a tree to grow by tugging at its branches. You can't accelerate life's natural rhythm by sheer force of will. There's timing to everything. And the sooner you learn to trust that timing, the sooner you'll free yourself from needless stress. Imagine a young artist pouring their heart into their work. They may feel invisible at first. No recognition, no applause, no breakthrough. At that moment, they have two choices: quit out of frustration or keep going in quiet faith. trusting that each brush stroke is preparing them for something greater. The ones who trust the process, who persist through obscurity and doubt, are the ones who eventually rise to the moment they were made for. In a world built on speed, fast food, fast news, fast results, it's a radical act to be patient. But the things that matter most, relationships, wisdom, mastery, self-respect, they all require time. Socrates once said, "To do is to be." In other words, growth happens not just in the destination, but in the doing. If you're constantly fixated on when you'll arrive, you miss who you're becoming along the way. But let's be honest, staying patient when nothing seems to be moving is hard. So how do you endure those quiet stretches without losing your fire? The Stoics offer a simple answer. Focus on what's in your control. You may not be able to dictate the timeline, but you can choose to show up. You can keep refining your craft. You can keep strengthening your character. And you can choose to believe that when the time is right, what's meant for you will come, not a moment too soon, not a second too late. One of the most liberating lessons Stoicism teaches is the power of acceptance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." Instead of resisting life's pace, learn to align with it. If your dream hasn't arrived yet, maybe it's because you're still becoming the person who's ready to receive it. Now think about this. Have you ever noticed that the more desperately you chase something, the further it seems to run? A job, a partner, even a dream. The more frantic and needy your energy, the more things slip through your fingers. It's as if the universe detects that desperation and responds by pulling away. But when you act with calm, quiet confidence, things begin to align. That's the key difference between chasing and attracting. One is rooted in fear, the other in purpose. Epictetus said it clearly. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In simpler terms, before you act, get clear on who you are and why you're acting. Desperate action comes from a place of fear of missing out, fear of not being enough, fear of failing. Purposeful action, on the other hand, is anchored in clarity. When you truly know who you are and what matters to you, your choices become intentional. They carry weight, even if no one else sees them. Let's make this practical. Imagine two people applying for jobs. The first is anxious and scattered. They blast out applications to companies they don't even care about. Every rejection feels like a personal failure. Their energy? Desperate, draining, reactive. Their energy is scattered, anxious, uncertain, and desperate. Now contrast that with a second person. This person moves with intention. They know their strengths, they apply with clarity, and they prepare thoughtfully without obsessing over immediate results. Who do you think is more likely to get the job? It's always the one who moves with calm confidence and strategy, not the one acting from fear. And the same principle applies in relationships. When you pursue a connection from a place of desperation because you fear loneliness or crave external validation, you often end up disappointed. But if you approach relationships from a place of self-respect and emotional maturity, you naturally attract people who see your worth. Why? Because confidence isn't loud. It's quiet, steady, and undeniable. Aristotle once spoke of eudaimonia, state of being where one lives in alignment with purpose and virtue. He believed that true happiness doesn't come from chasing external outcomes, but from embodying internal values like wisdom, courage, and integrity. When your actions reflect your core values and you move from intention rather than fear, life begins to align on its own terms. You stop wasting time chasing validation and start building a life that matters to you. Imagine the difference between a beginner chess player and a seasoned one. The novice makes frantic, impulsive moves out of fear and uncertainty. But the expert sees the whole board, thinks ahead, acts with patience, and doesn't overreact. Life works the same way. If you keep reacting from fear, you create more chaos. But when you slow down, act with clarity, and trust the long game, you move with far greater power. So how do you start living this way? First, get clear on your why. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I truly value it or because I'm afraid of not having it? That single question can shift you from fear-based action to value-based action. Second, slow down. Desperation rushes. Purpose reflects. When you're feeling panicked, take a breath. Reflect. Let your next step come from clarity, not impulse. And finally, trust yourself. You don't need to grasp for what's meant for you. You simply need to be prepared to receive it when it comes. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." So many of our fears are just mental projections. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? But most of those fears never materialize. You are stronger than you think. And when you move with confidence instead of panic, life begins to respond in kind. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever been completely exhausted, not from physical effort, but from constantly trying to control every part of your life? You plan, push, strategize, and yet things still don't unfold the way you expect. It's draining. It's like trying to hold water in your hand. The harder you squeeze, the more it slips through. Here's the paradox. The moment you let go, life often starts to cooperate. The Stoics understood this truth deeply. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Let that sink in. True freedom isn't about dominating your circumstances, it's about releasing your attachment to them. The more energy you pour into micromanaging the uncontrollable, like other people's opinions, the past, or the future, the more you deplete yourself. But when you redirect that energy inward toward your mindset, your reactions, your daily choices, you reclaim your power. Let's apply this to relationships. Have you ever tried to change someone? Maybe you wanted your partner to be more supportive, your friend to be more reliable, or your boss to finally understand you. And no matter what you did, nothing changed. That's because people aren't projects. You can't control them. You can only control your communication, your boundaries, and your choices. The same is true with goals. Many people assume that if they just try harder, grind more, stress more, they'll reach success faster. But there's a big difference between consistent effort and obsessive control. Yes, work hard. Yes, be disciplined. But if your success depends on micromanaging every outcome, you're setting yourself up for burnout. Seneca put it best. Fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. When you resist the natural flow of life, you create your own suffering. But when you align with that flow, focusing only on what's in your control, things begin to unfold with more ease. Here's a real-world example. You've got a big interview coming up. You've studied, you've practiced, you've done the work. But instead of walking in with calm confidence, you start overthinking. What if they ask me something I can't answer? What if I choke? What if I don't get it? That spiral shifts your energy from preparation to panic, and ironically, it makes your performance worse. But if you take a deep breath, remind yourself of your preparation, and walk in without clinging to the outcome, you perform with clarity, not fear. So how do you start letting go of control? First, identify what's actually in your power. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Obsessing over what's outside that circle only drains you. Second, practice acceptance. Life won't always follow your plan, and that's not a mistake. Some of the best things in life happen because of detours, delays, or unexpected outcomes. And finally, build trust. Not just in life, but in yourself. Trust that no matter what comes your way, you'll find your way through it, even if it's not what you expected. Have you ever met someone who seems to attract good things effortlessly? Success, peace, opportunity? It's not luck. It's their mindset, the way they think, the way they carry themselves, the energy they project. That kind of abundance isn't magic. It's a result of inner alignment. When your mind, your actions, and your energy are in sync, life begins to meet you where you are. Some people seem to magnetize opportunities and success without even trying. They walk into a room and things just seem to align for them. Why? Because they operate from a mindset of abundance. Meanwhile, those who focus constantly on what they lack often find themselves in an endless struggle, no matter how hard they try. It's not luck, it's energy. It's the mental posture you carry into every situation. The Stoics understood this principle long before neuroscience or psychology ever put it into words. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Let that settle in. True wealth isn't about accumulating things. It's not about the size of your bank account or the prestige of your job title. It's about freedom from need. It's about recognizing that fulfillment doesn't come from more, but from enough. When you stop operating from the assumption that you're always lacking something, you make space. And into that space flows new opportunities, new connections, new chances, new life. Picture this. Two people walk into the same room. The first is consumed by comparison, worried they're not as successful, as attractive, as connected. Their energy is heavy, their conversations filled with doubt, and they unknowingly close themselves off to possibility. The second walks in with a grounded belief. I have enough skills, enough potential, enough to offer. And just like that, doors open, conversations flow, confidence attracts. That's the difference between scarcity and abundance. And this principle isn't limited to money or career. It applies to relationships, happiness, and even time. If you believe the world is short on love, on good people, on meaningful moments, your brain will constantly confirm that belief. But if you teach yourself to see opportunity, to notice kindness, to appreciate what is rather than what's missing, you start to change what you experience. William James, often considered the father of modern psychology, once said, The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes. It's not magic. It's mindset. What you focus on expands. Think of a musician trying to build a career. The one who believes there's not enough opportunity. The industry is too competitive. Nobody wants my sound. They move with hesitation. They play it safe, second-guess themselves, and turn away just before breakthrough. But the one who sees rejection as redirection, they keep growing, keep creating, keep showing up, and eventually the world catches up to their belief. So how do you embody this abundant mindset in real life? First, start with gratitude. Every single day, not performatively but deeply. If you're alive, breathing, thinking, you already have a foundation. Second, act as if you already have enough. Walk into meetings, conversations, interviews, relationships with the belief that you bring something of value. Because you do. And third, let go of attachment. Want something? Great. Work for it, but don't need it to feel whole. Need creates panic. Wholeness attracts. Now, let's address something that hits home for many of us. The exhausting loop of chasing goals. You set a vision, you hustle, you push. You do everything right, but the results don't show up on your schedule. You feel like you're stuck in place despite all your effort. Sound familiar? We've been sold this myth that if we just grind hard enough, things must work out. That success is linear. That hustle is holy. But the truth? There's a big difference between aligned action and desperate action. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't push harder, it's pause. Seneca knew this. He said, "Effort and patience will achieve more than force and anxiety." Yet we live in a culture that worships the grind. We glorify overwork. We treat burnout like a badge of honor. But real mastery doesn't come from running yourself into the ground. It comes from taking precise, intentional steps and then trusting the rest. When you try to force something, you create resistance. It's like pulling on a knotted rope. The more you yank, the tighter it gets. Here's a more relatable example. Think about trying to fall asleep. You lie in bed, exhausted, but your mind is spinning. You try to sleep, you need to sleep, but the harder you push, the more awake you feel. It's only when you relax, surrender, and stop chasing sleep that it arrives naturally. That's the paradox. When you let go of control, you gain control not over external outcomes, but over your internal experience. Just like sleep, success can't be forced. It must be allowed. That doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you plant the right seeds: action, mindset, discipline, and then trust the invisible forces of time and growth to do their part. Think of a farmer. They till the soil. They sow the seeds. They water and protect. But they never dig up the roots every day to check if they're growing fast enough. They trust the process. And eventually, on its own timeline, life sprouts. Now apply that to your own life, your career, your relationships, your growth. Are you nurturing the soil? Or are you anxiously digging it up every day, killing what you've planted with impatience? Maybe in love, you've tried too hard. Over-texting, overthinking, needing constant reassurance. And what happened? That desperate energy only pushed people further away. But when you show up grounded, confident, not needing, but simply offering something, shifts. You no longer chase. You attract. because your calm energy becomes the invitation others didn't even know they were waiting for. Or maybe, in your career, you've been burning out chasing every opportunity, grasping for results that keep slipping away. But what if, instead, you became excellent at your craft, built relationships with authenticity, and trusted that the right doors would open, at the right time? That is the essence of aligned action. Do what is yours to do fully, diligently, but let the rest go. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius put it best: do what you must. Let what happens, happen. You can't predict everything. You can't control everyone. But you can choose your posture, your principles, your patience. So, how do you live this daily? Get clear on your intention. What do you truly want and why? Take aligned action. Not frantic, not panicked. Aligned, strategic, calm, release control. Over timing. Trust that life knows the way better than your anxious calendar. Reclaim your focus. Come back to what's in your power. Your effort, your attitude, your response. Trust yourself. You've handled hard things before. You'll handle them again. The real victory isn't when things go your way. It's when you're no longer disturbed. When they don't. When you shift from chasing to attracting, from grasping to grounding, from forcing to flowing, something remarkable happens. You don't just move through life. Life moves with you, and the Stoics knew this centuries ago. They weren't just philosophers. They were craftsmen of the inner world. And now that wisdom is yours to apply. Take a deep breath. Let go. You are exactly where you need to be. And you are more powerful than you realize. If this message resonated with you, there's a reason. Your journey isn't about doing more, it's about doing right. Hit subscribe so you never miss an insight that can change how you think, live, and lead. And if you're ready to go deeper, click the next video on your screen. It's time to build a life that flows calm, clear, and powerful. Let's begin.